What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I think many of you have probably suspected, as I have, that Marvel has a bit of an agenda, a plan, a goal moving forward in terms of what they do with the MCU. Now that, mainstays like Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, Chris Evans' Captain America, Mark Ruffalo's Incredible Hulk, these Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, although he's still going to do something, but he's eventually going to pass it off to Kate Bishop too. So what is the future for Marvel? Well, the future is, of course, female, just like Star Wars. Everybody loved Rey. I mean, an infallible character that earned every bit of the power level she had. And, I think the reviews for great movies like The Last Jedi also prove that the world wants no more men in all these shows. Now, look, obviously, you have, the thing is, like, the Avengers have always had strong female characters. Obviously, I don't think there's many people that have any problem whatsoever with Black Widow. I think that Wanda is largely beloved by people. Captain Marvel, obviously, infallible, played by the perfect Brie Larson. So, I think that, a good mix is a good thing to have. The problem is when you go too far the other direction, when it looks forced and weird. Now, this article via Bounding into Comics says, WandaVision writer Jack Schaefer reveals Marvel's feminist agenda. Schaefer spoke with Variety about Marvel Studios' latest show, providing details about the design of the show, but also provided a glimpse at Marvel's feminist agenda. First, he stated, the design of the show from the early on was that we were going to front load the TV sitcom stuff and the Twilight Zone aspects with this Lynchian vibe. By the way, I did love that. Then we would get a more cut and dry superhero fare with the blasty and the people flying in the air, all the wire work in the middle of the narrative, and then we would end on this big bang, she continued. Schaefer previously claimed she struggled to read comics, and she explained, I'm not a very good comic reader. What? They're not like puzzles. They're like the least... What? How do you have a hard time reading a comic book? I have a hard time digesting the storylines, and I never know which cell to look at. Really? You read them all the same? Okay, whatever. And I don't know, I'm a disappointment, perhaps, to the fandom in that way, but the imagery is always, of course, very startling and moving and inspiring, and was Kevin Feige's idea to marry Wanda and Vision to the sitcom world. Nevertheless, she tells Variety, comics and comic material often have women who have epic powers on a scale that's so enormous that it could destroy the world. Their narrative often goes in a direction where she comes undone emotionally and can't control it, she continued. I mean, I would argue that this happens to all superheroes. I don't believe that this is a specific thing about women. How about in Logan, where Professor Xavier is old and losing control, can't control his powers, and Logan has to constantly keep him sedated to keep the world from imploding, right? Much of what drives the villain side of superhero world is them not able to or unwilling to control their powers. Look at Deadpool, the little kid, right? The male kid with the fire hands. I forget what his name was, right? The entire storyline was about him not being able to control his powers, not a woman. So obviously this is not a uniquely woman thing. This attitude doesn't appear to be coming just from Schaefer, as Marvel Studios boss Kevin Feige previously detailed that a Doctor Strange cameo was cut from the show. Some people might say, oh, it would have been so cool to see Doctor Strange, but it would have taken away from Wanda, Feige explained. Well, we already knew that. He added, we didn't want to end the show to be commoditized to go to the next movie. Here's the white guy. Let me show you how the power works. So you would have had Doctor Strange if Doctor Strange was a different skin color. Is that what your point is there? So while she might not say that she can't control her powers, it's definitely shown throughout the show that she can't control them. it's not that she can't control them. I mean, that is part of it, but it's also, I think, the narrative, or the real interesting part of WandaVision, is that she is controlling them quite well, and that she's enslaved an entire city of people, and Marvel expects me to think she's a hero. Interestingly enough, while they would not allow Wanda to utter those words, it's a main theme in Tony Stark, aka Iron Man's arc throughout the MCU. The first film is all about his weapons falling out of his control. The second is his Iron Man technology being recruited by Whiplash and exploited by Justin Hammer. Stark's fear of losing control leads him to create Ultron, who tries to wipe out all of humanity. That fear also leads him to initially side against Captain America in the Civil War film. Tony Stark isn't the only character who explores this theme in Marvel's Cinematic Universe. Spider-Man famously struggles with his powers. In Spider-Man Homecoming, Stark has to save the day when Spider-Man attempts to jump Vulture during an arms deal. Spider-Man makes a mess of it and results in the ferry boat being split in half and sinking into the river. Fortunately, Stark is able to save the day and repair the boat and break up the arms deal, but Vulture is able to escape. I mean, another is Hulk, obviously Hulk. So this article goes on further to, further identify my point, or expand upon my point. Obviously, Ant-Man was another example. Despite all these examples from the MCU of male characters saying this, Schaefer's claim that Wanda wouldn't say this shouldn't come as a surprise. Schaefer has previously claimed, "I'm not very interested in adhering to another comic canon that this is discriminatory in any way that violates my system of values." Well, it appears we found out one piece of comic canon that she definitely will not adhere to. Wanda will not be allowed to admit that she can't control her power, and it's more than likely we won't see any more scenes with Wanda where she struggles to control her power like we did in the beginning of Captain America Civil War. I don't know that this, how do I say this? Is this exposing a feminist plan? I don't know. I think what it's more about, I suppose you could make that argument, but certainly what it does do is it goes into how Marvel doesn't want weak female characters. And anything that could be perceived as weakness, whether that's not being able to control your powers, which is a trope that they've used many times in terms of their male characters, to denying the fact that Wanda is clearly a villain during WandaVision. I don't know. I don't love it. I don't think it does a lot of good. I don't think it does a lot of good to the characters to make them Mary Sue's. You can see some of these comments. Was the series a success by any measure at all? I'm asking the question. Is there any reason to believe that we should be bragging about this series? I think people did like WandaVision. You could see minor problem is that they've been doing feminist subversion of superhero genre since the 70s. So all you're doing is subverting previous feminist subversions to even more extreme interpretations of feminism. I don't know. I think Jay Schaefer, or whatever her name is, what is her name? Jack Schaefer, probably is more interested. I mean, the fact that she admits she doesn't even know how to read comics, probably not a good thing to admit. Again, is this some grand reveal to most of us? No. We've known that this is what Marvel wants to do. We know that the future is female for Marvel. We know that, it is interesting, though, when we look at The Marvels, right, which is like an all-female cast as so far, I think, right? We've got, obviously, the beautiful, perfect Captain Marvel, and then we have Miss Marvel. Why do they keep pushing these films back? That's actually a question that I'm wondering about, because in spite of them wanting this future for the MCU, I think it's more complicated than that. I think they know that they can't just trot out another Captain Marvel movie and expect it to make $1 billion. It just won't. Especially in the modern day cinema world, where we're basically celebrating a movie for just passing the $100 million mark. We saw this with A Quiet Place passing $100 million, but it was a theater only release. That's probably by most definitions a flop, right? Now, what will they make on, I don't know, they're going to be on HBO Max or whatever the case may be. I think that Marvel probably is concerned that fans won't take to it, because I think what they've done is they've run this Marvel story arc to its natural conclusion, and it was a satisfying one. However, they seem unsure on how to restart it. They have this great tool in Disney Plus to be able to continue the stories with things like Loki and WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I'm not sure how that translates to restarting the movies. How many people are watching the X-Men series, or I'm sorry, the Marvel series is on Disney Plus, and compared to how many people were tuning into the movie theaters is vastly different numbers. Will they ever, bring these movies back to the big screen? The fact that whoever greenlit the Eternals has to be an absolute insane person. And that's another storyline that they're like, clearly, diversity. Nobody wants that movie. Nobody's going to pay to see that movie. It's going to be probably one of the biggest spectacular flops in Marvel history. And I think they're legitimately afraid to release that and see the box office numbers. What do you think below? Are you surprised by anything? Let me know in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.